Hello, everyone. We hope you had a nice, long weekend. We thank you for joining us now for the Journey to Digital, Tips to Grow Confident Learners, which will focus on student confidence and ways that you can inspire confident learners in your courses. My name is Courtney Doyle Chambers, and I'm happy to be your moderator for today's presentation. If you have attended other webinars in our Journey to Digital series, the platform we're using here now may seem new to you. So I wanted to quickly review just a few features to make sure you'll get the most out of your time with us today. If you look on your screen, to the left, you can see a box that controls audio volume. And below that, there are a few different resource tabs available to you, including a chat forum that you can use throughout the presentation. I see some people are already using, so thank you and welcome. And as it says here at the bottom right, we will take questions at the end, but you are welcome to send in your questions at any point through this feature. And finally, at the top right of the screen, following the presentation, you can download a certificate of completion right here. All right, so moving on. To lead this presentation, we are fortunate to have with us Scott Domowicz from Pittsburgh Technical College to share ways that he has found to use digital tools to instill confidence in his students. Scott Domowicz is the Academic Dean at Pittsburgh Technical College for the schools of Business, Criminal Justice, Hospitality, and Culinary Arts, where he has led the charge to use digital learning tools across campus. Scott received his Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Psychology from Penn State University and his MBA from the University of Pittsburgh. Scott became an educator after retiring from government service, where he served with the Office of Inspector General as a special agent. Scott is currently pursuing his doctorate in business administration from Taft University. And when not teaching, you can usually find Scott out on Lake Erie, as he's an avid kayaker, fisherman, and scuba diver. We are thrilled that Scott has taken time from his busy schedule to be with us and to share a piece of his journey. At the end of Scott's presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. And at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Scott.
Well, thank you, Courtney, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you find this educational and informative. I am the academic dean at a college in Western Pennsylvania, and we have recently transitioned to a fully digital school in almost all of our departments. We're about 90% completely digital, and I wanted to share our experiences with you with regards to that transition and why we actually moved in that direction. As the title of this presentation tells you, we're talking about instilling confidence in our students. And we constantly heard from employers that one of the most prominent skills that they look for during the interviewing process was a student that was confident in their abilities and in presenting what they could do for a potential employer. Well, we married that with the fact that most of the kids today, the millennials, don't live in that same world where you and I grew up. They live in a digital world. I have two teenage sons, and it's more often than not that I'll find them sitting in the same room, texting one another across the room instead of communicating verbally like you and I might do. Another good example is I recently chaperoned one of their high school dances. And if you remember back to your high school dance, that's what you did, is you danced. Believe it or not, for 2.5 hours, these kids sat around in social circles and just texted one another. No real social engagement whatsoever. So we decided that the best way to try to reach these kids was through the digital world, and was one of the impetus for us moving into the digital platform. So how did we begin? Well, we started back, let's go back a couple of years, back about maybe 10 years. And I was approached to pilot a new interactive digital platform for learning and engagement. And the first course that was rolled out onto this platform was a course called Medical Terminology. And if any of you are familiar with medical terminology at all, you'll find that that is pretty much a dry subject matter to teach. It is pretty rote. You give a list of terminology. You have the students understand where the roots came from that terminology. You have a memorized study. You give a quiz, and you're on to the next set. Well, in this particular course, we were experiencing a very high withdrawal and what we call WDF rate, withdrawals, Ds or Fs in that class, running at around 35%. Very unacceptable. The average grade in that class was probably a C of those that did pass the class. So I looked at this particular product and said, well, I had nothing to lose, so we gave it a shot for 1 quarter. Ran it for 1 quarter in one section, and we were surprised at the results. In that 1 quarter alone, the WDF rate for that section dropped to 18%. And the average grade for a student in that class was a B+. Well, obviously, being kind of science-minded myself and looking at running experiments all through my career, I wasn't going to take just that one set of outcomes. So we decided to run it a 2nd quarter, and we were going to do it a little bit more scientific this time. So we ran it in 4 sections with 2 different instructors. Each instructor taught the course regularly, the way they normally did, and they taught the 2nd section using the digital platform. Unsurprisingly, we got the same results. The normal way we taught the course, we were experiencing the high rates of withdrawal, but in the course where we were using the digital platforms, we experienced the very low, roughly 18% withdrawal rate, which was excellent as far as I was concerned. And the grade point averages were high as well. So boosting the interactivity amongst the students is one of the driving forces that you can do to help build their confidence. It was a good example to me of how powerful the digital world has become and where these students actually live. There was a study done not too long ago rather, where it polled students about how much time they actually spent reading in their textbooks as opposed to how much time they spent on Facebook. The average student reads about 15 pages of their textbook a week, and they spend about 400 pages on Facebook a week. So you can see that the students are really engaged, but they're engaged in a different way than you and I were when we were going to school. So there are many ways that you can look at interacting and boosting interactivity with the students. If you are using a digital product of any kind, whether it be MindTap or Connect or Rebel, there are ways to actually boost the interactivity with the students and try to get them to use the product and engage themselves. One feature that I like to use is to hide what I call Easter eggs within the reading material that I make assignments to. Students, in order to find the Easter eggs, of course, have to read through the material, and then they're posed with a question. Maybe it's true and false, maybe it's multiple choice, but it's a very short question, very easy to answer based on the previous paragraph or 2 of reading that they just did. It encourages them to get very easy points, but of course, in order to have answered the question, they've had to have done the reading. One of the things that we struggled with, and I'm sure everyone out there does too, is the fact that students don't like to read without having some type of motivation. So this kind of gives them the motivation to read the material. We also tend to embed all kinds of videos, YouTubes, and other links to outside websites, wherever we can, to beef up the engagement of the students within the product itself. Many of the products come with all kinds of interactivity built into them, but if you don't have a digital product or platform that you're using, there are plenty out there that involve using the common cell phone. Most of the kids today have smartphones, so you can use any of the various tools that are out there, Poll Everywhere, or SurveyMonkey, Poplet, Kahoot, any of those that are out there to engage the student. I know a lot of instructors don't like to have students use the cell phones during class. They find that sometimes they're a distraction. Some of my own faculty are fighting a losing battle with trying to keep the students from using their phones during class time. They get text messages from their friends or from family, or they lose interest in what you're saying and start surfing the net. And you can fight that battle if you wish and try to keep the students from using the cell phone, or how I rather do it is to use this phone as a tool, and engage them by using some of these applications. They're all very easy to use, and I would recommend not trying to deploy more than one at a time. So kind of do some research, trying to look at that. Poll Everywhere is a very good one to start with. Poll Everywhere, what it does, it allows you to present a question and then ask the students to respond using their smartphones. And the results are posted live if you have a whiteboard or an overhead, so that all can see the results as they're coming in. And that then is a springboard for discussion about a specific topic. So it's a good segue into engaging them into a conversation. That's a very easy one to use, and all of these are free. There's nothing out there. They all have free versions. There's not too much difference between the paid and the free versions. The paid may have a few more bells or whistles, or may have some ability to do some analytics, but if you don't need that, you just need the basic to try to engage your students, the free versions work just as well. So I would suggest just use one, try it out for a quarter, see where you get your engagement, get comfortable using it yourself, get your students kind of used to using it, and then gradually add a few more here and there. Another great one that I use all the time is ConnectYard. Now, ConnectYard is a standalone application. You can go out there and you can purchase the application directly from the manufacturer. But what's neat is ConnectYard comes built into MindTap from Cengage, and that's how we utilize it. The advantage of ConnectYard is that the students register in what is called a yard. The yard is your classroom, your section of students, and only your section of students. They determine how they're going to interact with you, whether it be through Facebook or Twitter or text messaging or email or any combination or all of the above. You don't have to share contact information. In other words, you don't have to be their friend on Facebook. You don't have to give them your Twitter handle. You don't have to exchange phone numbers. The system does that for you seamlessly and protects your identity from the students and your contact information from the students. So when you post a question in your yard, for example, that will filter out to the students, and they will receive it the various ways that they've signed up to receive the information. Now, knowing that students live on Facebook, this becomes a good method for me to communicate with the students about upcoming projects or assignments or tests that might be on the next horizon. But more importantly, it allows me to extend the classroom beyond 2 to 4 hours that I might have them during a traditional week. In criminal justice specifically, a lot of real-world engagement happens outside the classroom. In other words, we may be talking about a specific topic in class, and then on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning, something happens in the real world that relates to the topic that we were talking about. Well, instead of having to wait for me to go to the next class and then talk about it then, I can actually send out a message through ConnectYard and start a discussion with the students about what has just happened in real time. Because it goes directly to whatever their choice of medium is, Facebook or text messaging or Twitter, they get it automatically. And believe it or not, they respond right then and there. And I can pretty much step back and then just monitor the engagement. The students kind of take it over all on their own. They really kind of like the engagement and talking about the real topics in the real world and how they relate to the information that they got in the classroom. So this is a really good feature, and I would highly recommend utilizing it. If you've not seen it, you can go out to their website. If you're currently using any type of a MindTap product, Most of them have Connect Yard in there. I would encourage you to explore it and to utilize it. You can assign point values to the posts as well. So there is another incentive for students to become engaged. Most of the students prefer to get involved with assignments and projects when they know that there is a benefit from getting extra points. And this allows you to do that too. It's not necessary, but it is an option that you can utilize. Okay, moving along here. So one of the other things that's very important is to make it as real as possible. In other words, impose real-life simulations or real-life experiences wherever possible that apply directly to the content that you covered in class. We are a very project-based and project learning type environment here at PTC. And in fact, most of the classes are in a flipped environment where the material is presented outside of the classroom. The students are responsible for that and come to the classroom prepared to put that product knowledge to practical application. We use simulations, digital simulations, wherever possible. One of the nice features that I found in some of the criminal justice products that we use is decision makers. These are decision trees where a student is presented with a scenario and they're given 2, sometimes 3 options. And based on their response to that option, it leads them to a secondary level and then a tertiary level and so on and so forth. Whether they can see, based on what their decisions were, what are the possible outcomes of that as a result of that decision. In addition to that, we try to use other simulations. Another good one that we use here is called the Milo Justifier. And the Milo is a system used for firearm and for use of force training. And think of it as a very large scale immersed video game in which the participants are the active shooters. And the system will present them with a case scenario. They'll have to respond to the scenario using the proper amount of force, and if necessary, engaging the suspect with deadly force if that's required. It allows the students to build confidence in their skills to handle situations, especially in our criminal justice force. They're going to be asked to de-escalate situations all the time, and they have to have the confidence to handle very, very situations that are going to change on a spur of a moment. So it's important for us to give them as much real-world experience and practice as we possibly can with these types of scenarios. We take it outside as well, and we give them the experiences in dealing in a real-life situation, whether it be with what we're called drunk goggles, where their special goggles are put on their eyes and simulates them being a drunk victim, so they can see what it feels like to have to be in that kind of a situation. And we role play. We take them to paintball arenas where we can do car stops and we can do domestic situations, and we can use not live ammunition, but the closest thing that we can use, and put them in a situation where they can practice their skills. We also think it's important to present them with larger scale scenarios and training scenarios, and we engage the services of various federal, state, and local municipality agencies to participate in a one-day-long training event. We call it a critical scenario or critical incident. And again, we construct a real-life situation. It could be a mass casualty of some sort. It could be a terroristic threat. It could be a bomb going off in a playground. And all of the agencies respond as if it were a real-life situation. But the students are immersed into each of those agencies and respond along in kind with those agencies. So it provides them an opportunity to practice the skills that they've learned, both the technical skills and their soft skills, dealing with the press, dealing with witness statements, dealing with a crowd that gathers to witness a catastrophe, and handling those kinds of situations as well. So both the hard and the soft skills. And the students find it very, very valuable. Many of the agencies say that they wish that they had had an opportunity to experience this type of an event before they went out to their first job. Along with that is to make sure that we don't lose sight of history and events that have taken place in event. We are kind of fortunate, if you want to call it that we are fairly close to the Flight 93 Memorial, and so we make it a point to take the students there once a year on 9/11 to experience the tragedy that occurred there, and to give them some firsthand experience of what occurred on that fateful day in history. So again, these are just some suggestions and some ideas of things that you can do to engage your students. If a student knows that the class is going to involve these kinds of hands-on activities, they're more willing to show up and to participate on an ongoing basis. So we find it very, very, very fortunate and very practical for us to do this on an ongoing basis. Okay, next, Courtney, next slide. So one of the things that's very important as an instructor too is to try to find out what students need the extra help, or is there concepts that you are teaching that the class as a whole don't understand. Using a lot of the digital products that are out there, they all have built into them some form of analytics that allows you to gauge the students, not only the students' participation, not only their engagement with the product, but also whether or not they understand the concepts that are being presented to them. That's important, again, in developing their confidence, because we want them to feel confident about the material. We want them to understand and how to use it in a practical sense. So the analytics that's available to you will provide you with an opportunity to look at various questions to see whether or not students are being able to answer those questions, and if not, is this an individual or is this the class as a whole? As an instructor, I find it very valuable because I can monitor their progress, but I can also see, for example, if the class as a whole is struggling with a concept, then I know going in that it's not to my benefit to move forward with the material, but to maybe take a step back and go over that material a second time, try to figure out maybe a different approach of presenting it so that the students can comprehend it. As we all know, most of the content within our classes builds on one another. So if they are missing a concept, then they're going to struggle from that point forward in understanding and many of the concepts that follow. So the analytics allows me to do that. It also allows me to target specific student. If there is a particular student that is having a difficulty, it's going to allow me to zero in on that student and see specifically where his issues are, and maybe develop a tutoring plan or some other type of proactive plan to assist that student in achieving his goals. Analytics also allows the students to kind of compare themselves to their classmates, so they know exactly how much time that they spent in a course, but it allows them to see how much time their fellow students are spending in the course, and what they're, how well they are doing or progressing based on the chart in comparison to themselves. For many students, that's a motivator in itself. They like the challenge of succeeding and doing as well as their classmates or better than their classmates. So for some students, that's a motivation enough. But for those underachievers, again, it allows me to find out fairly soon within the class, within the first week or two, and I can intervene before it becomes too difficult to get that student back on track. So take advantage of the analytics that are embedded into the digital products that you might use. They're very valuable tools, and you'll find that they're very helpful on many different fronts. In addition, the analytics also will provide you with material and reports and data that you might need for accreditation. It can help you show that you are meeting your program outcomes, or your course outcomes based on the performance of your students. So again, it's another use for it, a secondary use. But again, it's a good tool, and I would encourage you to take advantage of that tool. Okay. So again, one of the benefits of the digital world is the fact that we make learning accessible. Most of the digital products that are out there can be accessed through a computer, through a tablet. Many can be accessed on the smartphones. It allows for seamless use of the product across many different platforms, and students find that very, very helpful and very engaging. I have students that commute using public transportation, and they find that they can use their tablets or their cell phone to pull up various assignments that they may want to work on, or they can use the reading tools or the flashcards to study for an exam. And all these tools make it very easy for a student to be more practical with their time. One of the best features that a lot of my students love to use is the reader. And what the reader does is that it actually reads them the assignment, the reading assignment to them, much like an audiobook. For those individuals that are single parents and have to multitask, they say that it's invaluable for them to set up their computer, start the audio reader, and still be able to focus on other domestic chores like folding laundry or preparing dinner, and still get through their assignment in a timely manner. Another group of students that find it very valuable are those students where English is a second language, where they are still struggling to deal with English as a primary subject, a language for delivery of the content of the material. This allows them to concentrate more on the content and not so much on the verbiage and the proper use of language. We find also that students that were probably not as successful in high school and their English skills and reading and comprehension skills are not to maybe where they should be for college work, using the Speak Reader again is an invaluable tool for those students as well, and they seem to succeed a lot easier in the courses and in what they're trying to accomplish. And again, being successful just builds confidence in the student. It's these small steps that we can take as instructors to try to build their confidence, to use the digital products to help us do that. And these little successes become big successes in the end. So again, using the tools that are available within your applications and within your platforms can be used to help the students become successful and feel confident in their abilities. Some of the other things, like I said, I mentioned one of the favorite tools is flashcards. I know it's old school, but believe it me, the digital product is not much too different, but the students really love that tool. I have students that walk around with their cell phones, and you ask them what they're doing, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm studying my flashcards for I got a test coming up in the next period." So again, using those digital products, using it in a digital format, making it accessible to students wherever they happen to be is an important aspect to making them feel confident in their abilities and confident in what they've learned. Okay. Next.
Okay, thank you so much, Scott.
Sure, no problem.
This is great. Yeah, each of these tips that you've shared, they can really be connected back to confidence, engaging students with dynamic activities, social media, making learning more engaging and more fun to give them confidence, but also being able to pinpoint those students who need help and give them the support that they need to be more confident and to continue on. And of course, making learning accessible, as you just spoke about. So thank you very much.
No problem.
And these are helpful tips. They can be applied in different ways with digital tools.
Absolutely. These are just a few ways. I'm sure that the audience that's out there, they probably have suggestions too of ways that they've used digital products to assist their students and engage their students in the learning process. So I would encourage anyone that would like to share anything that they're using. This would be a great opportunity to do that as well.
Yes, definitely. And we want to move on now and open up the conversation to questions and to comments. So any questions that you have for Scott to participate, simply type your question into the Q&A box, which is directly below the presentation screen. And I can then pose your question to Scott. I also see we have people participating in the chat as well, which has been really active this whole presentation, so that's great. I think we can start out, Scott, I think you mentioned the reader at one point. Can you explain what that is a little bit more?
Sure.
The question came in from the chat box, actually.
Okay. The reader is an application that many of the digital platforms, MindTap and Connect both have one, that allows the student to select, first of all, a voice, whether it be male or female, the speed at which the voice is going to read the material to them, and then, of course, they can select the volume for that particular application. They select the page that they want read to them. They click on the read speaker, and the read speaker reads the material to them verbatim, word for word. They can pause it at any point. They can go back and have it reread to them again. But again, it allows the students to multitask. And again, for most of us, we know that if we can engage more than one sense in the learning process, the more apt the student is to retain that information. So even those students that are reading the material themselves, if they have the read speaker on as well, they're audibly hearing it as well as visually reading it at the same time. And that seems to improve retention for those students that do that. But again, for the other groups, single parents that need to multitask, it provides them the freedom to do that. English as a second language students, again, when they're faced with the challenge of a new language as their primary language for learning, sometimes they stumble over how to pronounce words or the meaning of words, and it seems to me that it's easier for them to comprehend verbal words than it is for them to comprehend written words when English is not their first language. And again, we found a vast improvement in those students that came to us unprepared from the high school level, where their reading comprehension and reading skills were not at college level for them to be successful. Using the reader gave them the confidence that they needed to feel that they could be successful in the course and comprehend the material. So, yeah, use that product wherever you can.
Thank you, Scott. We have a number of questions coming in right now, so let me see here. This question comes from Tanya. Curious about how you actually administer the Easter eggs. How do the students know what they're looking for, and how do they let you know that they found it? Do you provide extra credit?
Okay, so basically what I do is at least the products that I use, they allow me to customize the content. So inside the reading material itself, I will insert a question. Mostly it's a true or false, or it might be a multiple choice. Sometimes it's a fill in a blank. And yes, I do assign points to those. So as the student is going through the reading, they will come upon this question that relates back to usually about 3 or 4 paragraphs of material that they just read. And it will ask them a simple question. If they answer it and answer it correctly, they get the points. If they don't answer it, then they don't get the points. It's as simple as that. But even if they read the question, which I can see some students are going to do that, just kind of scan the material looking for the questions, it's still going to require them to at least go back and scan the previous material to try to find the correct answer. So even if they're not reading the entire paragraph, I know they're at least scanning the material and pulling out that concept that I wanted them to understand from that material, that several paragraphs anyway, in order for them to find the answer and answer the question.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Okay.
Sure.
Another question. Have you incorporated any of these digital learning tools into exams, or do you mainly do that through your lectures in class?
We actually use the digital products to administer the exams as well. Many of the platforms, especially those associated with textbooks, come with digital exams and quizzes that are incorporated or allow you as the instructor to build your own exams or import them from another source such as Google Docs. So we use the product itself as the way that the students take their exam. We've gone away from paper exams several years ago, and really this is more advantageous. It allows, because the system will grade the exams for you. So as an instructor, you're not just spending your time grading exams, you're spending your time developing content and making your course more engaging and more relevant to the student, which is where I'd rather have my faculty spend their time. Try to remove the administrative tasks as much as possible and unburden them so that they can concentrate on developing program and assisting the students with tutoring. Those are the two primary focuses that I have my faculty concentrate on. And the digital products allow me to have them do that.
They're a good resource for you then.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, Scott, there's actually a really great question that came in through chat about how can we best help students who are not digital native? So students who are older, changing careers, may not be as comfortable with technology. And this person, Jackie, actually mentioned she has a student that's not even using a cell phone. So do you have any tips for helping students that aren't as comfortable with digital?
Well, like I said, here at our school, we've gone completely digital, and freshmen coming in their first quarter, along with getting all of their material in a digital format, they get a computer, a laptop from us. We then provide them with instructional, this is during orientation week, we provide them with various times and places where they can go to receive tutoring and instruction on not only how to use the device, but how to then access their digital products. We also offer a session on an ongoing basis on Wednesday between 10:30 and 12:30, where a student can come and get help using any of the digital products or any of the digital devices that we might deploy to deliver content. So they can bring their cell phone, they can bring their laptop, they can bring their pad, and an instructor will work with them one-on-one to make sure that they are confident in using material. We want the digital platform to open up the ability for students to access their content wherever they happen to be. We don't want it to become a roadblock to them. So we provide them the opportunities and the means to get the training, and again, to build the confidence that they need to utilize the products that are out there to their fullest potential.
Yes, you have a lot of experience with that if your whole campus is using digital now.
Absolutely.
Getting everybody up to speed. Okay, Scott, you also mentioned that your classrooms are flipped.
Right.
So the question from Gail is, prior to class, do you review how many students have completed the material? And also, do you use the results of this pre-class work to tailor the classroom experience?
Yes to both. If students come unprepared, it's very difficult to move forward with planned material or projects that they need to work on during the time that they are with the instructor. I find that it is very useful to use groups, small groups, 3 to 4 individuals, where if one individual perhaps does not meet the expectations that are required, I usually don't have to do anything to intervene. The other group members are going to let that person know that they are not pulling their weight, and that as a result, the group as a whole is suffering and moving forward and meeting the expectations for the project. So I find that that's very helpful rather than do one-on-one information. But in those situations where that is the more practical application, where each student is working on something individually, if a student does come unprepared, then I send them to the library to get prepared and to do the work that they should have done at home. And then I will give them the assignment at a later time after class. They'll have to come see me at office hours and get the missed assignment or missed work. And it'll be on their responsibility. They'll have to take ownership of that, and they'll have to find a way to get caught back up at that point. But I don't have too much problem with that. That happens once, and then unfortunately for them, they learn the hard way, and we don't have a repeat occurrence.
Okay, they learn their lesson, though. Good, that helps for the future. Okay, Scott, a question about Kahoot. I'm not sure if this is possible. Janet says she uses Kahoot in her face-to-face classes for chapter reviews. How could you use it for an online course, if at all? Do you know, have you used it in an online course at all? I'm not sure.
I do not. We use Blackboard for our online courses, and we have another product that we use to engage the students. It's not Kahoot. So I have not had any experience, unfortunately, in using Kahoot in an online environment to engage the students. I really would not be able to answer that one for her. I'm not sure, maybe somebody else out there in the community who's online might have an answer for her, but that one I don't. Sorry.
That's a great point. Yeah, if there's anybody has any ideas about that, we can talk about that in the chat box. And no, Scott, that's helpful. I mean, Janet says she uses it in her face-to-face classes at all, but it is interesting to think about how that could be expanded and used in an online environment. Right. I think Sharon already put an idea up there for everyone. Set up Kahoots for students to access when they're not in class so that they can practice. So there you go. There was actually a second part of that question, Scott, and it was, do you recommend using a Kahoot in class every day?
I try to mix things up. I wouldn't use it every single day, but I mean, I don't see anything wrong with using it every day. If you're getting good results and good engagement from the students, then why change anything? If you feel that maybe your students are getting a little bored with the process, then maybe you want to change it up, and maybe it's every other class or every third class, and you use some other digital product or activity to engage the students, so it's not the same routine. But if you're getting good results using Kahoot every day, then I would stick with it.
Sure, it probably just depends on your preference and the course. And,
right.
Yeah,
and it's going to, right, it'll probably vary too from cohort to cohort. So what works with one cohort may not work with the next.
Absolutely. There's been a few questions about Google Drive, Google Docs, and how you can insert that into your course. Is that something that you do in your course, Scott, now? Well,
and in the courses in which we use MindTap, of course, we use Google Docs to create information, create documents, assignments, projects, worksheets, and then we import them from Google Docs right into our MindTap applications, our MindTap platform, and those become assignments in the learning curve, just like anything else would be. So each platform is unique. Most of them, though, do have the ability for you to import personally created information, whether it be reading assignments or worksheets or projects of any sort, into the platform itself. So it would be different for every platform, so it's platform specific on how you would actually do that. So depending upon which platform you're using, your rep could probably show you exactly how to do that.
Thank you. There was a question that came in, I think related to you talking about pinpointing students that need help through analytics.
Sure.
The question is it showing results of a student response, a violation of privacy, especially if it's a graded item? I think this relates back to that tip and how students can compare their scores and see how they're performing compared to other students in the class. So maybe we should just clarify there what students actually see and how student information, students can't see other students' names.
No, they don't see any personal information about another student whatsoever. They see a scatter point plot that's going to show them a bunch of points, and it's going to show them relatively where they are on that graph and where everybody else is in relationship to them. So no, they don't see any type of specific information. regarding a specific student whatsoever. Only you as the instructor can see that information.
Thank you for clarifying that, Scott. Okay, we have had some great questions. We are right almost at 2:45. So I want to thank all of you for your questions. And Scott, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for answering all these questions. And thanks for all of your work to build confident learners in your course and then sharing it with us. You can download Scott's presentation. Yeah, thank you. You can download Scott's presentation from the Download Resources tab right here in the bottom left of your screen. We also hope that you'll take a moment to answer a brief exit survey so that we can learn how to make these webinars as helpful for you as possible. And also there will be a link to the on-demand recording, the on-demand session of this presentation available immediately after this broadcast. So that will be available to all of you. I wanted to share with you as well that the next installment of the Journey to Digital Professional Development Series will be a multi-speaker virtual event on March 21st. It will be focused on teaching and learning that is powered by you. This will feature Audrey Wick from Blinn College, who will offer tips to make your digital course personal, James Lang, who will share ideas from his 2016 book, Small Teaching, Everyday Lessons from the Science of Learning, and also a conversation with former Congressman George Miller about higher education policy in the Trump administration. Registration for this March event will be open soon, so stay tuned for an email invitation, or you can visit cengage.com/mindtap for a link to register, and we hope that you can attend. So thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with us, and from all of us at Cengage, have a great day.